Final game before Christmas, and the Pacers get a nice win over the Houston Rockets. Big fourth quarter propelled by a nice switch to zone, and Myles Turner and Caris LeVert dominate with no Brogdon and no Sabonis on the team for the Pacers tonight as they're injured. Lots to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers as always. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News, and today it is Christmas Eve. If you're listening on Christmas Eve or traveling or whatever, thank you very much for making Locked On Pacers your first listen every day, including around the holidays. And if you're not celebrating, thank you for listening every day as usual. We're talking Rockets Pacers today. Pacers get a nice win over a Houston team that is better than their record for sure. And Pacers made the Rockets look pretty good until the fourth quarter when they destroyed the Rockets. No Brogdon and no Sabonis for the Pacers in this game. Brogdon still dealing with that Achilles soreness. Sabonis has a calf injury he suffered last week. Neither of them played, so they had to get help in other ways, and they got it. So we'll talk about that game and a big night from Myles Turner. He deserves a heap of praise for the way he played and the way he played as a solo center in this game. I want to do a whole segment on him. And at the end, in the spirit of the holidays, 3 things on the Pacers Christmas wish list. I'll wear a little Christmas tree bandana or a headband for those. Headband for those of you watching on YouTube. Let's talk about this game. Pacers dominant early. LeVert has 7 assists in the first quarter as he fills in as the point guard. They're up 8 after one quarter. They stink defensively for the next 2 quarters. They're down 3 going into the fourth. And then Lloyd Pierce, defensive coordinator, pulls out a zone, and the Rockets just had nothing for it. 12 points in the fourth for the Rockets. Pacers scored 27 comfortably. Their offense was pretty consistent all night. They scored 27 or more every quarter. Pacers end up winning by 12 thanks to that dominant fourth quarter defensively that they had. That was kind of the story of the game flow, is that it was kind of back and forth. You know, the Rockets were getting some good minutes from Jalen Green and Eric Gordon and Christian Wood and Jayshawn Tate, but the Pacers, when the game was on the line and mattered, took away the Rockets' flow completely and got into their own stuff and just dominated. So the game flow-wise, that's how the Pacers were able to do it. That zone change was huge. But individual-wise, this was a very interesting game, right? No Brogdon. He's still dealing with that sore Achilles. He was questionable before the game. We'll see. He had a scan. It was fine. Carlisle said it was a favorable scan. Sabonis injured his calf against Detroit last week, played through it against the Heat, but they sat him out this time. We'll see if he can return for the Pacers next game. But that meant that Turner started at center. O'Shea Brissett moved in as the 4, so they just bumped Turner up position and start Brissett. And then instead of starting Wanamaker with McConnell and Brogdon out, they started Caris LeVert at point guard and brought Chris Duarte back into the starting 5. I think that's the right move. Carlisle said, important to get our best 5 players starting the game, right? So of the available players, those are the 5 he views as the best. And I kind of think that's impossible to dispute given the Pacers roster this season. So that's the 5 he went with. You know, there was maybe Wanamaker would start and Duarte would come off the bench, but Duarte's been much better than Wanamaker, so that makes sense. But without Brogdon and Sabonis, it was imperative that the Pacers found a way to get good production from center and point guard, especially point guard. If you listen to yesterday's show, or 2 days ago show, where I said they need better solutions at point guard. Wanamaker's not it. Find a way to get LeVert more minutes at the 1. Do something else, right? LeVert starts at point guard, ends up playing 36 minutes, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, nearly a triple-double. He was supreme at distributing. He was getting into the paint, getting far into the paint. That's when he's at his best, getting those passes away. Had some nice scoring in the second half, was kind of held in the first half and check a little more in that department. But that's what they needed. That's what they didn't have in Miami. They had no positive ball control in that game, right? They couldn't have good passes. They couldn't set up the plays. They were just going through the motions. In this game, they had a point guard who was initiating stuff, who was a dual threat to score and pass. LeVert stepped into that role perfectly. So that's something I think if Brogdon remains out, and McConnell's going to be out for much longer still, that they'll continue to go to. They'll start LeVert at point guard and start Duarte next to him. Duarte fit in pretty well, right? Without Brogdon or Sabonis, he could have the ball enough to be effective. He had 18 points, shot 15 times, right? That's what they need from him. 4 assists, get him the touches, let him grow. That fit really well. And then Wanamaker only has to play 9 minutes with the bench because LeVert can start at the point guard and be in a nice rhythm the whole game. And Wanamaker's minutes went terrible again in this game. No, they lost those by 7 points. Only Pacers who played with a negative plus-minus, but they just needed him to soak up time for LeVert to be at his best. He did wonderful in that role. So that sub made sense to me. Brissett starting at the 4 also, again, if you're going with, as Carlisle said, your 5 best players make sense to me. Turner had to step up in the rebounding game with Sabonis out. He had 10. He did wonderful. But Turner had to play center in this game, which he normally, as Carlisle has detailed, that this game has to kind of play power forward. And we'll talk a lot about Myles in the next segment. I won't get into too nitty-gritty stuff, but Myles takes 10 shots inside 4 feet in this game. That's got to be a season high. I don't have all those in front of me. Only took 2 threes in an 18-shot game. Like, that is a very un-Myles Turner-esque shooting game, and he took advantage of it. 14 of 18 inside, 13 of 16 inside the arc. Impressive. 32 points for Turner. 2 huge blocks that swung the momentum in the fourth quarter. He was excellent in this game. He was their best offensive player at finishing plays. They really needed him. So without Brogdon and Sabonis, they needed guys to step into those roles and fill in time. And then when they switched up the rotation, it really worked. Carlisle deserves a lot of credit for the way he coached this game between the Pacers pivot to zone and the lineups he ended up choosing. Something else he did for a very short amount of time that I think is something they could go to going forward. They had 2 minutes and 57 seconds of this lineup. Chris Duarte, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, one of O'Shea Brissett or Torrey Craig, and then Goga Bitadze. So really it was 2 lineups, but they just subbed who was at the 4. Know who's in that group. No Brogdon, no LeVert, no Wanamaker, no McConnell. Like, their point guard is Chris Duarte in those minutes. For 3 minutes, they tried that tonight because they just needed to get LeVert some rest, and Wanamaker wasn't really cutting it. -2 in those minutes. They were +5 with Torrey Craig, and then -7 with Brissett. So maybe they should have just stuck with Craig there. But if that's something they can lean on for 3 minutes or for a little more than 3 minutes every game, because Wanamaker was -7 in 9 minutes. Like, if you play that group for 9 minutes, just going off of, using multiplication, you'd say they'd be -6, right? Maybe they try that a little bit more because, it was a small sample for sure, but it kind of worked, right? Maybe that's something they go to. So very impressive stuff from Carlisle in this game to get the right lineups in there, and very impressive from guys to step up into roles. And then other guys who stepped up. Jeremy Lamb, welcome back. Welcome back from not playing well for a while. 11 shot attempts for Lamb in this game. Season high for him. 5 assists for Jeremy Lamb in this game. Second highest of the season. 16 points for him. 5 rebounds, 5 assists. One of his best output nights of the season, if not his number 1 best. Their bench kind of needed it in this game. Torrey Craig only had 6 points. Bitadze, we'll talk about Goga in a second, only had 6 points. They needed Lamb to be a punch for them off the bench since they were missing so many guys, and he really stepped up. It was big to get that game from the Pacers for him. So that he needed that game. He had a podium game. It was the first time he's spoken to media after the game in a while. And they usually select, someone who had a noteworthy game or the best 3 players that night. And Lamb deserved it. He shot very well in this game. He made some nice plays for the Pacers. They needed him. He was good. And then Goga was the backup center with Turner out. I was curious about that, if they'd go with Isaiah Jackson or Goga Bitadze. They played both in Miami just 2 nights ago. They go with Goga. Goga did well. Goga, 10 minutes and 34 seconds, 6 points, 2 rebounds, filled in perfectly, just fine, 3 of 5 shooting. Had some nice offensive rebounds too to keep some possessions alive and get some extra points. So they pulled all the right levers in their rotation in this game. They pulled all the right adjustment levers in this game with the zone defense, which it was really a very well coached game from the Pacers, and they got exactly what they needed from everybody to fill in with 2 of their best guys out. And the Rockets, to their credit, they shot really well from deep for almost the entire game. I don't know if they made a 3 in the fourth quarter, if they'd made just 1, and they still finished above 40% at 15 for 37. And this game almost flipped when Caris LeVert had the 4th foul, and they were out in Wanamaker early in the third quarter, but the Pacers found a way to fight back against a hot shooting team, get that zone in, get the right guys to step up, and it was great. They all talked about after the game, they played the game pure. That's the words Carlisle used to really describe how they did. So, outside of some shaky perimeter stopping the ball defense that led to kick out threes for the Rockets, pretty good all-around performance from the Pacers, and they should beat the Rockets. I get it. Like, no one's going to be impressed that they beat a 10-20 Houston team. But like I said last week, this Pacers team was 13-19 before this game. Like, they should not be expected to really beat anybody at this point. The Rockets are better than their record. Any win from the Pacers is impressive given the way they've played all season. Like, they shouldn't really be favored heavily against anybody, and they didn't have their 2 best players. So to get this win, especially before Christmas and 3 days off before playing the Bulls next, it's good for the Pacers and their morale. I mean, everybody was happy to step up in this game with the roles they had. So good win from the Pacers. Lots of big storylines. Those guys fill appropriate roles, and let's talk more about Myles Turner, who went on the record this season saying, I want a bigger role. And he didn't say, I want to be traded. He didn't say he wants someone else to be traded. He said, I want clarity on how you guys can get me a bigger role and get me the shots that I need to be the player that I want to be. I deserve some sort of promotion. And in this game, I think he got a little bit of what he wanted. Let's talk about Turner's night. But first, let's talk about the good folks over at TrueBill, because did you know that free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions. TrueBill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions that you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 per year with TrueBill because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Link up your accounts, and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. They have over 2 million users and have helped them save over $100 million. Don't fall for subscription scams. Check out TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Start saving today. It could save you thousands a year. TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now. TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Let's also talk about one of my favorite people to talk about on the show, and that is Built Bar, the best tasting protein bars ever. And I'm not just saying that, I mean it. They are 100% covered in chocolate. They have so many good flavors. They're actually good protein bars. Most of them don't taste like the flavor they say, or they're way too chewy, or they just taste like, I can't even describe it. It's not a real flavor. Built Bars are actually good. They have amazing flavors. I love the peanut butter brownie, and they're all really healthy. Low in calories, low in sugar, low in net carbs, low in fat, but high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. Great around the holidays when there's going to be a lot of tempting food around you for the next couple days. So try them. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You can get 15% off your order. That promo code, again, is LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you for making Locked On Pacers your first listen every day. For your second listen, why not go check out Locked On Rockets? Hear about Jalen Green, who was very good in his first game back for the Rockets in a long time. The Rockets actually outscored the Pacers with Jalen Green on the court. Lots of credit to him. He played very well. Let's talk about Myles Turner, who had, 32 points and 10 rebounds in this game. His second 30-point game of the season. By the way, coming into the season, he had two 30-point games in his whole career. Clearly some improvement from him offensively when he's able to be a force and get the role he wants. I've already seen some comments from people about, or fans in the arena saying something to the effect of, oh yeah, with no Sabonis out, he should do that. He should get the ball more. He's the center. He's a more natural center. And I don't know that that's true. And I get where that line of thinking comes from, but I don't think that's true. Looking at the last two games that Turner played without Sabonis last year, the Pacers played the Bulls at home and got absolutely smoked. That game Turner got hurt in, but he did play the first 20 minutes. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks. They were -6 in those minutes, okay? And then the game before that, they played the Spurs. Turner did not get hurt in that game. They won in overtime in San Antonio. Turner had 18 points, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks. That's a pretty good game for him, for his stat line. That was the Keelan Martin game, if you'll recall last year. So he doesn't just Sabonis being out doesn't default him to more touches, right? He only had 12 shots against the Spurs, like I just said, in an overtime game, right? It doesn't default him more touches. It doesn't default him a bigger role. It doesn't do anything. It just changes the little letter before his name on the sheet that says the position that he's starting in. So he really stepped up in this game. He had to. And something he talked about when he talked about wanting a bigger role or more clarity in his role, a promotion, if you will, because he's been working on his game for forever and hasn't really gotten that promotion, as he called it, is kind of touches around the basket. And I don't know if he said that specifically to anyone, but he did when he was asked about what he wants specifically on the court, talk about, I got a shot around the basket tonight. I really like that, right? Like tonight, Myles Turner took 10 shots inside of 4 feet, 8 of 10 inside 4 feet. I believe I already said that, but that is how Turner was different in this game. It was not necessarily that Sabonis is out, although definitely the way he played is harder to do with Sabonis on the court at the same time. And again, the Sabonis and Turner minutes have been really good together this season. So this isn't saying some thesis that Turner should change how he's playing, the Pacers should change all this stuff. This is what Sabonis meant, this is what Myles Turner meant. He said, I can be this guy that every so often you put me in a short roll, I can make a play. You give me the ball around the basket, I can turn and score. Right? I can dunk. I can make decisions with the ball. Carlisle credited his passing, and I noticed he hit a few cutters this game in a very impressive way. Only ended up with 1 assist. But Turner had the ball in places on the court that allowed him to make decisions or put it up around the rim, and he took full advantage. And look, in his career, he has not done that all the time, right? There is a reason fans were kind of like, Myles Turner cannot be the guy saying this right now. Like, his career has been what it is, but this is what he kind of wanted. Not necessarily to have this many shots every game or to have this role every game. I kind of think what he just was talking about is like, I want to know how you're going to let me do that a few times every game. Not 18 times, not shoot 10 times inside 4 feet, but just a few more than the 0 he's been getting basically the last 2 seasons. So to see him have the opportunity to show the coaching staff, hey, I can do it if you give me these chances, and him taking advantage, I think was important for him to sending, the message that he's trying to send, that maybe he does deserve a few more touches of that elk every game. And he did a very, very nice job in it in this game. I mean, he was their MVP in this game. His defense in the fourth quarter completely changed the game. His defense has been awesome for forever, but to see him step up offensively after some of the stuff he said this season was pretty big for him, I think, and pretty big for this Pacers team in general. And he said after the game he thinks he's the greatest shot blocker in the world. We've known that for forever. But changing the game with those blocks was really impressive. Some other stuff that other guys said that stood out to me about Myles after the game. Carlisle called his decision-making on point, and that's kind of what I go back to with the passing. But it's not just the passing. It's also like, he knew when to shoot or when to kick it out or when to set a screen. And it wasn't just pick and pop like it usually is with him. It's pick and roll, pick and short roll, pick and make a decision from 15 or 10 or whatever feet. Like, he used all that stuff that he's got to think through when he's running around as the big man. Do I reverse the ball this time? Is there an advantage over there? And sometimes he robotically reverses, but in this game, all those decisions, he nailed them. He did exactly what should be expected of him when he's playing at a high level and what should be expected of him when he's playing as the lone center. The Rockets' post defense kind of stinks. I understand that argument from the Myles detractors as well. But still, he did it, right? He had 32 points. Like, Myles, his whole career, has not taken advantage of matchups like this all the time. So I think this was a step forward from him in a lot of ways. We also heard Carlisle talk about he had a different set of responsibilities. That's the exact terminology he used in the postgame presser, which I think kind of tells the story of what I'm trying to say perfectly, right? He's playing 4 when he starts next to Sabonis on offense. He was playing 5 tonight. His responsibilities were not be a perimeter threat, shot fake and drive, or get 1 or 2 post-ups a game. His role was, you are a center, you play inside out and make the right reads and rolls and reactions after you set screens, and he did a wonderful job with that. And that is what he needs to carry on going forward. And again, this doesn't mean to me the Pacers need to suddenly feed Turner the ball inside 10 feet or let him make more decisions every game, because again, I even think Turner would say this. Sabonis is better at passing and making those decisions and is a pretty good finisher himself, right? It makes more sense to have him be the guy rolling most of the time. But if Turner can let you mix it up every so often, that's what I talked about before the season as something Carlisle could do that would kind of change the outlook of the double big. He could make Turner more dynamic in that way. He could make it harder for other teams to predict what the Pacers are going to do when either big could screen and either big could do either thing. And all of a sudden the floor is more spaced out without adding any more shooting, because you can send different guys to different areas in the floor and have different screeners be dynamic. And Turner did that in this game. He set good screens. He got credit from his teammates for that after the game. He made those right decisions. He was rolling into good spaces, and he was finishing the plays. That's key for him, right? And with authority, all the confidence in the world for him. And he needed this kind of game to me to take advantage of an opportunity to say, look, you went on the record and said what you wanted. You wanted the bigger role. You wanted to shoot in certain ways every game. You don't want anyone to get traded necessarily. You don't. That's what he says. He doesn't want anyone to get traded. And he thinks it can happen on this team, but he wants that big role, whatever it takes. And he has to take advantage of nights like this to prove he earned it. And tonight he did. And throughout his career, that hasn't always happened. But I think for Turner and for this Pacers team, it was good to see him in that role doing what he says he can do. Now everybody's got the message that that is possible. Perhaps that gives other guys confidence to feed him on those roles more often. Perhaps it gives other guys confidence to get him the ball around the basket more often. Perhaps it lets Carlisle say, okay, you can short roll on this play, right? And we can stick Sabonis in the short corner or something just for 2 plays a game. Maybe it gives him a little more confidence. And if it stops working right away, then go away from it. But it's kind of a win-win when he steps up to the plate in that manner, and he did it tonight. So all the credit to Myles Turner. He deserves a full segment, both just in general from the way he played. I mean, a 32-10 game is ridiculous. His fourth 30-point game of his career obviously merits a full segment, but also given the way his season has gone, where he has talked about, hey, I want this bigger role. Hey, I can do these things that I'm not being asked to do every game. To actually do it when given the opportunity was good to see. So good for Turner. this needs to be something the Pacers can potentially lean on. I don't know when Sabonis is coming back. I don't know if Carlisle knows when Sabonis will be able to come back. It doesn't sound like something serious. We'll see. But if Sabonis can't come back against Chicago, Turner has to put in another performance like that. He just if he can't do it 2 games in a row, then the conversation goes right back to the other way. So let's talk about Christmas. It's Christmas Eve, and I'm only using Christmas here as a guise to say, what's the Pacers Christmas list? And I'm going to do a New Year's resolution list next week because I love the holidays and how they can impact how you talk about the Pacers. But Turner played well. That's a lot of Pacers fans' wish list, is that he'd step up in games like that, and he did tonight. So I made a Pacers wish list. 3 things that this franchise will want for Christmas. Let's take a little break and talk about that. But first, let's talk about the good folks over at BetOnline.ag who have you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through college bowl season and into the pro football playoffs. Tough blow for the Colts tonight with the Titans beating the 49ers, but BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head over to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today at BetOnline.ag to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, to receive your bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts. Kevin Pritchard has spent all year on his best behavior so he can write this letter to Santa that says, "Dear Santa, the Pacers want these 3 things for Christmas." Maybe Herb Simon wrote the letter. I don't know. I just wanted to make that the intro to this segment. It's Christmas time. What do the Pacers want for Christmas? This is kind of just a general what do the Pacers need and what can they be looking forward to segment. I'm just using the holidays as guys to get there. And now, let me put on my Christmas headband to officially talk about what should be on the Pacers Christmas list. And I have 3 things. First up for me is consistency from role players. And I have harped on this several times throughout the season on this podcast of, they'll have a lot of games where Brogdon gives them 22 and 8 and Sabonis has 20 and 15 rebounds and Turner does his job defensively and then they get nothing from anybody else, right? Justin Holiday goes 1 for 6 from deep, and Duarte shoots 1 for 5, and Jeremy Lamb goes 2 for 7 or something, and O'Shea Brissett's the only consistent guy they have with that second unit, and they lose like that. That's happened probably 6 times this season. They've lost just because of games like that. If they had one role player who was very consistent all season, I bet they would have 3 or 4 more wins, right? They need consistency from those role guys, especially offensively, right? And Justin Holiday has had such a strange season in that way. Derek Kramer, iPacers blog, pointed this out, and I think I mentioned it a little bit on the show before, but if you look at his stats and his 3-point percentage this season is 34%, just below league average. It might even actually be league average this year because shooting percentages are down in general with the ball switch and it's early season and just the adjustment to having fans back, all that stuff. The league average is a little lower. Still below his standard for his career. And even that feels high to me because he has so many games where it's 1 for 8, 3 for 10, 1 for 3, and then he'll go boom and go 4 for 7 twice in a row, and then 6 for 8 3 nights later, and then his percentage levels out and looks good, even though he had way more bad games than good in that stretch. So Justin Holiday is one of those role guys who has been markedly inconsistent. Well, his defense has been good. So I'm mostly saying offensive consistency from role players. Jeremy Lamb has been like this as well. 1 for 9 in their loss to the Heat, 3 for 10 against Detroit, and yet he's had some bigger games earlier this month that they looked good in, right? He had a 10-point game against the Wizards that they won. He had an 11-point game against Atlanta. They almost won that. He was 6 for 9 against Charlotte in that game where he had 23, his highest scoring output of the season, right? He was good in this game. He's been all over the place this year. And with his role being a little herky-jerky, I get why it's tough for him to always be playing consistently, but any more consistency from him would give the Pacers another spark plug off the bench, especially with guards being in and out of their rotation all season. Keelan Martin falls into this category, although his inconsistency was just started great and then was awful for a couple of weeks offensively. He started shooting so well and was scoring around screens and totally deserved the 20 minutes a game he was getting for a while, and then that kind of dwindled into the teens, and then it went to 9, and now he's out. So his offense went away completely. If any one of those guys could have held their consistency for more of the season, I think the Pacers would have more wins, right? Any of them. And even Duarte could be in this category, although I understand it a little more from a rookie, so it makes a little more sense in that way. Brissett's been pretty consistent, but those 3 guys, really, that's something the Pacers should be asking for Christmas. How can we make them be more consistent players for our basketball team? Number 2 on the Pacers Christmas list, the cop-out answer of the day from me is TJ Warren. Of course they want TJ Warren. They've been talking about his return from injury for forever. I think he would help the Pacers with their defensive consistency. I think he would help them in isolation situations. I think he'd help them away from the play, another shooting threat potentially. This is all if TJ Warren is at the level he was at when he stopped playing eventually, not right away. I don't think anyone expects him to be any good right when he returns, whenever that ends up happening to be. But, if he can be helpful for them, even on just one end, that adds another threat to their rotation. And, if it had happened earlier, it doesn't make them force him to play Keelan Martin as much and stuff like that. And so I think TJ Warren, the position he plays, the skills he can provide, has to be very high on the Pacers' Christmas wish list. And the other thing with him coming back, beyond just we get a good player on our TVs, is we as people and podcasters have been talking forever about the Pacers rebuild. And part of that decisions they'll have to make is, how do these guys fit with TJ Warren, right? Let's say TJ Warren returns and all of a sudden he's running sweet two-man games with Domantas, Sabonis, or Myles Turner all the time, and him and Brogdon have this wonderful efficiency. Then you might be thinking differently about who you want to move. Or if he's awful, maybe he's a guy that's discussed in moves. The earlier he can come back, the better. And that's why he's on the Christmas list despite not returning yet, because if he can return with a month before the trade deadline, that would help the Pacers get a lot of data points and make a lot of decisions as they lead up to whatever direction they decide to go as this season ends. And the last thing for me that I think the Pacers have on their Christmas wish list is good games from players and trade murmurs. Very vague, but for a team that has had articles written about their potential direction, and Myles Turner wants a bigger role, and maybe he'll be on the move, or maybe Sabonis will be on the move. He was in the athletic piece, or maybe Caris LeVert will be on the move. Jeremy Lamb off the bench. All those guys, if they have good games, that helps their trade value, that helps them look better, that helps their averages. And if the Pacers are winning, they can say, well, we might not sell, and drive up their price a little more. They might be able to say, we need a little bit more to be enticed into being a seller. And I know a lot of NBA teams won't buy that talk necessarily, but if it comes down to it, that might matter. So a game like tonight, Sabonis not playing, obviously, doesn't impact his value at all, but Turner being excellent like that, excellent, especially as the lone center for any team that needs a center desperately, huge, right? LeVert playing point guard, a dynamic role, 24 and 11, huge. Jeremy Lamb providing a spark off the bench. Like those kind of game. This game against the Rockets is basically exactly what the front office wants from a production standpoint from their guys in trade murmurs, because they all were good. They led the Pacers to a win so they can keep going for wins and keep telling teams, maybe we're not going to trade him unless you offer a little more, right? This is exactly what they want. It pumps their value up. It makes those players more confident and feel good about their situation with the Pacers, depending on if they decide to retool, right? Those kind of things are important for this Pacers team going forward, and I think that it's important for the front office to try to help those guys be maximized as it leads up to the trade deadline. And they all were in this game. We'll see if they can continue to be in that situation going forward. That is my Christmas list for the Pacers. Tell me yours on Twitter. I'm at TEastNBA, and this podcast is at Locked On Pacers. Thank you guys a ton for listening. Hope you have a great holiday weekend if you're celebrating anything. Travel safe, be safe, all that stuff. If you're not celebrating anything, hope you have a good weekend. I'll be around to communicate if you want to talk some hoops. Again, on Twitter, at TEastNBA. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday to talk Pacers, Bulls, and some other general topics.